Good evening. My name is Jason Morrissey. I'm the moderator for the Town of Bennington Annual Meeting. Jim Carroll reminded me of something on Vermont Digger today, that in 1762, the first Vermont town meeting was held. It was held in Bennington, so we're carrying on quite a tradition. Before we get started tonight, if we could start from my left, proceeding to the right, could I ask all of the town officials to please introduce themselves?
Joan Payson, Treasurer.
Cassandra Barbo, Town Clerk.
Good evening, Chad Gordon.
Hello, my name is Jeannie Jenkins.
Good evening, I'm Donald Campbell.
Hi, I'm Tom Jacobs.
My name is Jim Carroll, as he just told you.
Good evening, Carson Thurber.
Thank you, everyone, for coming. I'm Jean Connor.
And I'm Stuart Hurd, Town Manager. To my right is Nancy Lively, our esteemed secretary.
No official.
Thank you. A couple of reminders. If you'd like to speak on any article tonight, please stand, seek to be recognized. You'll have to come forth. You have to be a Town of Bennington resident to speak, so please say who you are and that you are a resident from the Town of Bennington. And of course, be respectful of one another. I know there's always a few articles, I suspect this year may not be any different, that people have very strong opinions on both sides of the ledger. And allow one person to speak at a time, and we'll try to make sure everything gets heard in order. I will now read the warning. First would like to do the Pledge of Allegiance, if Chairman Tom Jacobs could lead us.
Thank you, Jason.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Tom. The following is the warning of the Town of Bennington 2018 Annual Town Meeting. The residents of the Town of Bennington qualified by law to vote in town meeting are hereby notified and warned to meet at the Bennington Fire Facility on River Street using the Lincoln Street entrance in said town on Monday, March 5th, 2018 at 7 p.m. or immediately following the Bennington School District's annual meeting, should that run over, to transact business specified to be done from the floor. If you are a resident of the Town of Bennington, attend to be present at the meeting, and are hearing impaired, arrangements will be made for a sign interpreter to be present at this meeting. For necessary arrangements, please contact Stuart A. Hurd, Town Manager, at the Bennington Town Offices at 205 South Street or P.O. Box 469, Bennington, Vermont, 802-442-1037, but not later than Friday, February 16th, 2018. Following the completion of such business, the meeting will stand adjourned until Tuesday, March 6th, 2018, at the Bennington Fire Facility on River Street, again using the Lincoln Street entrance. The polls are open from 7 a.m. until 7 p.m. for the election of officers and voting on all ballot articles specified. However, those on the checklist to vote in the Village of North Bennington shall vote for the election of officers and all ballot articles at the North Bennington Village Office on Main Street in North Bennington, also known as the Railroad Station. The Bennington Fire Facility above mentioned is hereby established as the central polling place for those on the checklist to vote in said Bennington. Residents of Bennington and North Bennington may register to vote at the Town Clerk's Office, 205 South Street, Bennington, Vermont. Eligible residents registering on Election Day must do so at the polling place where they will cast their town meeting ballot. Tonight there are 3 items of business that will be conducted in the floor meeting. The first is to hear the report of town officers and take appropriate action thereon, typically meaning to accept the report. There is Article 2, which is the issue of Select Board members' compensation. And then, of course, there is all other business. So beginning with Article 1, to hear the report of the town officers and take action thereon, Traditionally, we ask the chair to make a few comments on the town report, so at this time, I'd like to recognize Tom Jacobs.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. First, I want to say thank you for being here tonight. You know, it's great to see all of the townspeople that are interested in our town here and to participate. The annual report is at the back of the room in case you've hopefully had a chance to receive one. If not, they're available at the town office. The report of the town is contained within the four corners of this document. I have to suggest that of all the annual reports that I've seen over the last 5+ years, this is probably the best one, both in content and style. The artwork here is outstanding on the cover. I know we're not overly concerned about art work on our town annual reports, but if there was a town competition across the state, we would win going away. So the reports are contained within the published report. If there are any questions, I and my colleagues will do our best to answer them. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Is there anybody from the floor that seeks recognition to speak on the town report? If so, please step forward to the microphone. Seeing none, may I have a motion to accept the town report as printed? So moved. There's a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying no. The ayes clearly have it. Article 2, Select Board Members' Compensation. Refresh my memory.
$1,400 per year.
$1,400 per year is the current compensation paid as a stipend to each Select Board member. Is there anybody who would like to be recognized to speak on that subject? Joe Hall.
Yeah, I'm Joe Hall.
There's
well-
not a motion before us, we're just discussing the article.
Okay, well then I'll make a motion. That I move that continue with the 1,400 per select board member.
Okay. There is now a motion. There is a second. Are there any other comments on that matter to be heard? Hearing none, all those in favor of continuing select board compensation at a rate of $1,400 per year, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. The ayes have it. Select board compensation is set at $1,400 for the upcoming year. Next, all other business. Recognizing and having some forewarning of several issues that would like to be discussed, I do recognize the mayoral question. There may be some people here tonight that would like to speak either for or against that. Without indicating whether you're for the petition or against the petition, could I have a brief show of hands of the number of people that would like to speak on that particular issue tonight? Okay, I only see 2, maybe 3. Okay. In that case, is there anybody that would like to be recognized from the floor to speak on any of the... Another question before I proceed, I apologize. We also have 12 funding questions on tomorrow's ballot. Will the people here to speak on those from the agencies that are to be funded, would they please raise their hand? Many more. I would like to move through that first, unless there's an objection to that, and I would ask that everybody who seeks to be recognized limit their comments to approximately 1 minute, as I see there are 10 to 15 people that would like to speak on a number of those articles. Charlie, you're in the front, so I'm going to start with you, please.
Good evening, I'm Charlie Jingo. I live here in the community, I live here in Bennington, and I'm here to speak about the Bennington Free Clinic. The Bennington Free Clinic is a program of Greater Bennington Interfaith Community Services. The clinic operates out of our building over at 121 Depot Street, and we serve adults 18 years old and older who can't afford health insurance. And it typically means that we're serving people who work, whose employers don't provide health insurance, or they may not be able to afford it if it is provided. We've been in business since January of 2009, and since we've opened our doors, our doctors and nurses have seen over 3,000 patients. Last year, in 2017, our doctors and nurses saw 407 patients, 292 were new to the clinic. About 63% of all of the patients that we see live here in Bennington. We're open on Thursday evenings for appointments and walk-ins, and we occasionally will do Monday mornings when we have appointments. All of our doctors and nurses are volunteers. So in 2017, we had 12 volunteer doctors seeing patients, 1 nurse practitioner, 13 volunteer nurses, and about 20 lay volunteers who greet people, help fill out forms, get them squared away, help them fill out healthcare applications. Last year, we enrolled over 300 people in health insurance. And just briefly on one other program, our Ladies First program, which is part of the clinic, covers the cost of mammograms, pap smears, and heart healthy assessments for women who don't have health insurance. The funds that we get through the town of Bennington, they're used to help us pay for medical equipment and appliances that we need, supplies that we need for the clinic, lab tests and x-rays and other kinds of diagnostic testing that we have done at the hospital, sometimes urgently needed dental care, and also prescriptions for people who can't afford them. And we urge the citizens, the voters of the community, to support the clinic tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you. I know there were several people, rather than try to pick people off, if you can just start a line in the back of the room if you're here to speak on these issues. And again, begging your indulgence, we've now had 1 speaker for the Bennington Free Clinic. I know most organizations send 1 representative. If we can have just 1 speaker for each, unless there's a pro and against, which there rarely is, that might help get everybody's message out that much sooner. Who's ever at the front of the line, please come forward.
Good evening. My name is Linda Putney, and I'm president of the Board of Directors of Bennington Project Independence. I would like to thank the town of Bennington for its past support of BPI. We have been providing exceptional adult day services for older persons, younger adults with disabilities, and their families for almost 40 years. BPI is requesting that the voters and members of the Select Board support an allocation to BPI of $11,000, the same level of support we have requested for many years. Currently, 78% of our 105 participants live in the town of Bennington. We serve an average of 50 people a day at the Dr. Richard A. Sleeman Center on Harwood Hill. This year, new federal requirements for veteran funding has placed an additional financial burden on BPI. We could not turn our backs on our veterans and their families who have sacrificed so much. The allocation from the town of Bennington and North Bennington will help us continue to provide day services for our veterans and their families. We hope that the voters and members of the Select Board will look positively on our request and support an allocation to BPI Adult Day Service. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, who's ever at the front of the line?
Oops. Good evening. My name is Charlie Murphy, and I'm here tonight as a peer advocate counselor with the Vermont Center for Independent Living. Colleen Arcodia is another peer advocate that works in our office here in Bennington, along with another staff member, Lynn Mazza, who's out in the audience. I'm here tonight to ask the voters of the town of Bennington to support the funding or the article that would fund the Vermont Center for Independent Living. We're a statewide, grassroots, cross-disability and deaf disability rights organization with our central office in Montpelier. We have branch offices in Morrisville, Burlington, Rutland, Brattleboro, and Bennington. What we do our office here in Bennington is located on the corner of Valentine and Main, 601 Main Street in the Nichols Annex of the First Baptist Church. Some of the services that we provide are peer advocacy counseling, which Lynn and Colleen do. We're folks with disabilities that help other people with disabilities find resources, problem solve, and to try to live as independently in the community based upon the resources that are available. And we encourage people to advocate for the services that they need, as well as try to advocate for services that are inadequate or don't exist. The peer advocacy counseling program is a peer-to-peer, it's set in the peer-to-peer model, where we work one-on-one and sometimes in groups with folks with disabilities, and it's peer-directed. We also provide information referral to folks that need information related to resources and resources related to disabilities, such as architectural access, transportation, and a whole raft of other ones. There's also the Home Access Program, which provides funding for people that are financially eligible for ramping, entryway modification, doorway widening, and bathroom modification. There's also the Sue Williams Freedom Fund, which provides funding for items, pieces of equipment that other funding sources will not provide funding for to help that person live independently. There's also Meals on Wheels for people under the age of 60, for people who have a disability, and who cannot make a meal on their own. We also have the Vermont Equipment Distribution Program, which provides funding for people who are deaf and hard of hearing, provide fund for communication devices. And last but not least, we also house the Vermont Interpreter Referral Service out of our Brattleboro office. People can call there and request an American Sign Language interpreter for meetings where our interpreter is best suited to attend. And so I encourage the members, the citizens in the town of Bennington to vote, funding for the Vermont Center for Independent Living. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Mary Ann St. John. I'm a resident of Bennington, and I'm here to speak on behalf of Brock Community Action. Over the past year, Brock Community Action has assisted more than 1,300 individuals with their food needs at our food shelf. We've done housing counseling, heating and utility assistance, forms assistance. 145 homes or units were weatherized or had energy efficiency measures performed. And 23 individuals worked on starting a small business through our business counselor, through our micro-business development program. Between Rutland and Bennington, 289 participants got free tax preparation, very topical at this time of year, with the returns resulting in more than $380,000 in refunds, rebates, and credits. Our Jobs for Independence program was a free job readiness and training pilot program from Vermont, which helped people get referrals to the Department of Labor and find jobs. The Economic and Workforce Development Department worked again, starting 17 new small businesses in Bennington and Rutland counties. We continue to provide fuel and electric assistance, furnace repairs, fuel tank replacements, which have become mandated as of July 1st in many cases, and free weatherization services. We provide information and application assistance for 3 Squares Vermont, an important nutrition program for individuals and families alike. We'd like to thank the town residents for voting in support of Brock over the past years. Our request is an allocation of $7,500, and we hope that people consider funding us again this year. If anyone has questions about getting assistance for themselves or perhaps an elderly neighbor or other friends or family members who might need assistance for fuel or furnace repairs, please give us a call. We'd be happy just to discuss eligibility requirements and talk it through and help people get the help that they need at this time of year in particular. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Joy Kitchell. I'm a resident of North Bennington, and I am the Executive Director of the Bennington County Association Against Child Abuse. And our working name is the Bennington County Child Advocacy Center. When working with kids, we prefer to call ourselves the CAC. It's a little less threatening. We have actually been in existence for 29 years. Gary Briggs from the Bennington PD and Bunny Thompson from DCF founded our organization 29 years ago. And the key component of our program is we want to provide an environment that is as trauma sensitive as possible when we have victims of sexual abuse. We work with roughly 135 to 140 children a year that are victims of possible sexual abuse. When we work with the child, we work with the non-offending family members, and we help link with many of the other nonprofits that you're hearing from tonight to get them support services, and then we also support them if the case does go to trial. When looking at the numbers for the town of Bennington, what I can tell you is that about 90% of the children that we see come from our supervisory union, and about 75% consistently come from the town of Bennington. It's a hard number to pin down because for some children, if it goes all the way through the judicial process, we may work with that child for as long as 3 years until it seeks resolution. And we work with them because we are the common face, and there's two of us, we are the adults that these children and families know throughout the entire process. And it's very important for us to make sure that they are treated with respect and they're given the resources that they need to heal. The other piece of my job, which I love, I'm a former teacher and school principal, is that we provide prevention education to the community free of charge. And to date, we have trained every teacher and paraeducator in the SVSU on the signs and symptoms of sexual abuse, which complies with Vermont's Act 1. And our programming through Prevent Child Abuse Vermont is now in every school in your school district. And we're currently working with preschool teachers to implement the program for 3 and 4-year-olds. And we are currently piloting a program at the high school with their vulnerable students to see if we can help make them stronger and safer citizens. And so I thank you. This is the 3rd year we've asked for funding support. The last 2 years you were very gracious to provide that support, and we hope that the voters can do that again this year. Thank you. Oh, and I have brochures on the back table if anyone would like some more information.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Suzanne Kirkpatrick, resident of Bennington, here to speak on behalf of PAVE, Project Against Violent Encounters. On behalf of the board of directors and the staff and all of the people who have been served by PAVE in the last many years, we thank the citizens of Bennington for their continued support and hope it will continue further. We believe in compassionate support and practical services. Among the things we offer are a 24-hour hotline, court and social service advocacy, case management, emergency financial assistance, access to legal services, access to emergency housing, supervised visitation for non-custodial parents, parenting and other classes, community awareness presentations, and school-based education. That's most of it, but there's more. Domestic violence is the 3rd largest lending reason for homelessness among families. In order to deal with these problems, we do many things. This past year, we opened a 2nd emergency shelter, one that is a more comfortable setting for families. We provided 57 adults, 41 children with 3,135 nights of shelter services. 29 families with 34 children received supervised visitation services through Family Time Center. Overall, we provided 266 Bennington residents with comprehensive services. Through our education and empowerment programs, pre-kindergarten through adult or through college, we've helped 4,500 children, teachers, and other adults learn new skills. We thank you for your past support, community, and we hope to gain your support this year. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please.
Hello, good evening. My name is Jennifer Plouffe. I am the Case Management Supervisor and Office Manager for the Southwestern Vermont Council on Aging. We help and support elders 60 and over or younger disabled that qualify for the Choices for Care program. We partner with Meals on Wheels to provide healthy, nutritious meals. We provide transportation services. We provide case management services and options counseling services, money management program, rep payee services, volunteer services. We are very grateful for the support that the town of Bennington has provided to us, and we ask for similar funding this year in the amount of $7,500. We are continuing to grow. The aging population is continuing to grow, and we would like to be able to provide as many services and supports to the residents of Bennington County so that they are able to age in place and age in the least restrictive environment possible. And our case managers are one integral part of that, being able to make that happen. So we are very grateful for the support in the past years, and we are very hopeful for your support for voting tomorrow. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kathy Aliberti with Green Mountain RSVP, but I have a question. Am I to be a Bennington resident to speak at this time?
No.
Oh, okay.
This was, I understand, all the agencies are traditionally invited by the select
Yeah.
board to come make a brief presentation, and
Okay, thank you.
that is an exception to the rule.
All
Thank
right.
you for asking.
I'm nervous enough. All right, so.
Well, yeah, you're doing great so far.
Okay.
Cassie, could you register?
So first off, I'd like to thank you for the support in the past. Next, I'd like to acknowledge and say thank you to at least 7 RSVP volunteers behind me. There could be more that I see here tonight. These unassuming folks are dedicated to the Bennington community along with 80 other Bennington RSVP volunteers. They give their time selflessly. They deliver meals for Meals on Wheels. They provide rides to medical appointments for Green Mountain Community Network. They file taxes for the other, through the AARP tax aid program. They mentor elementary students. They offer companionship and help with bill paying. They volunteer at the His Food Pantry. They help with Stuff the Bus, our annual food drive, which benefited 4 Bennington food pantries, as well as others in surrounding towns. They lead bone builder classes. They support blood drives, the Bennington Free Library, the hospital and museum, and many, many more nonprofits around town. The funds from the town of Bennington go towards outreach, recruitment, volunteer appreciation, training for bone builder leaders, and insurance for the volunteers. Our staff salaries are, there's 2 of us in Bennington, are paid through our federal grant. Green Mountain RSVP is a senior corps program that matches people ages 55 and older with volunteer opportunities which help the communities they live in. We work with a variety of nonprofits and offer many kinds of opportunities. We host nonprofit fairs to bring the organizations together and to allow them to educate the public on what they do. Thank you for your time and consideration. And lastly, contact us. We'd love to match you with a volunteer opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Christine, and I'm here representing the Bennington Area Visiting Nurse Association and Hospice. We thank you for your past support, and we hope that we can count on that again this year. To tell you a little bit about what we do, in case you're not familiar, our organization provides care to all ages, newborn to those who are spending their last days here on Earth. And We keep people out of the more expensive ways of care. We keep them out of the emergency rooms in the hospitals. We're able to keep them in their homes, and so they're not in the nursing homes. All of those are a little bit more expensive, obviously, than the care that we're able to provide. Plus, people are home in your community and with those that they care about in the place that they love. Excuse me, I get a little emotional. And we're the safety net for your community as well. We accept all medically necessary patients regardless of profitability. To talk to you a little bit about that, about 25% of the services that we provide through our agency is not covered by any insurance. So we do a lot of fundraising, which is what I do for the agency, to cover that and to make the services available. We, in addition to the normal home care services that you're probably familiar with, we also provide foot, blood pressure, flu, cholesterol screening, and different community resources outside of the home, just to keep people safe and healthy. We, most of our insurers underpay the agency. About 85% of our income comes from Medicare and Medicaid, and we face a potential 5% cut this year to our Medicaid reimbursement, and then they're going to rebase our funding for the next 2 years, so we don't know how that's going to impact our agency. Increasing technology costs, increased regulatory costs, and you'd be surprised to hear that our agency has to pay a Medicaid tax back to Medicaid of over $600,000 each year, which is kind of a little bit of a unknown fact there. So we thank you for your past support. We hope we can count on it in the future, and have a great night. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Ken Sigsbury. I'm the Executive Director at the Turning Point Recovery Center in Bennington. I'm a Pownell resident. I've been doing this job for about a year. Thank you for your $2,500, guys. I appreciate it. We put it to use in, as far as we've developed it in the last year, we've developed a youth program here in Bennington for peer recovery support services. We've also started writing a new recovery program that's going to be for a specific demographic associated with opiates, addiction, and ages 18 through 32. That's basically what we use the money for, and after taking over, you know, we at Turning Point, we were awarded the CRASH grant, which is the new name of CRASH is IDRP, which has helped us a little bit on the income. That's probably why we're not asking for more at this time. So we also got a really good grant from the state to put recovery people in the emergency rooms. So there's going to start being recovery people in our emergency rooms here in Bennington, so if somebody overdoses or has a problem with addiction, that they can talk to a peer. I myself am a peer. I'm an opiate addict in long-term recovery. Also, also some things that we've done at Turning Point in Bennington, besides our regular services, is with the help of our local delegates here in Bennington County, the senators and the reps. They did get me appointed as a Bennington County representative to the Governor's Opiate Council. So I don't know if you guys saw it. When the list first came out, there was not a single person on there from Bennington County. So I called my friends in Montpelier, our delegates, and they went after the governor, and they got me in. So we have representation on that council too as well. And once again, thank you.
Thank you. Chris?
Last but definitely not least. Oh, we've got some more? Oh, okay, good. My name is Chris Oldham. I'm the Executive Director for Bennington County Coalition for the Homeless. And this year we respectfully ask for $25,000 from the citizens of Bennington, which makes up about 5% of our budget. And funds will be used to support our family and single shelters along with our new Unlocking Recovery program. February 1st marked the first anniversary of our new 966 Main Street shelter. We replaced a 6-bed facility with a 16-bed fully accessible facility. And now we're moving forward with plans to replace our family facility to improve habitability, increase capacity, address our accessibility issues, and become more energy efficient and cost effective. Established in 2000, we continue to tackle the growing homeless epidemic head on with our hand up approach as opposed to a hand out. Because we strive for sustainable solutions, participants of each of our program are required to engage in case management services along with life skills programming that include budget counseling and employment readiness. In 2017, we served 57 children. 30 of them were under the age of 5 years old, and 5 were newborn, born into the family shelter. 14 were veterans. 31 were over the age of 55, 98 with disabilities, 29 fleeing domestic violence, and 38 dealing with substance abuse disorders. We cannot continue to facilitate new beginnings for those in our community without housing, without the support from all of our communities. And the people in Bennington and across the county have been incredibly generous to the coalition. I would like to also thank the Select Board for your support, especially in the last year. We couldn't have done what we were able to accomplish this year without you, and I specifically would like to thank the town administration and also the community. And I'd also like to thank the community for providing things like clothing, bedding, and personal care items to our shelter. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
My name is Ann Mook, and I am here as board chair for Sunrise Family Resource Center. Sunrise's mission is to strengthen families, promote independence, and connect our families with community resources. While we often use the words to describe our work in verbs, guide, help, support, prepare, educate, teach, and refer, the essence of our work is prevention. Our staff are involved at crucial junctures with families who have experienced adverse childhood experiences and complex trauma. Sunrise is a nonprofit, a 501c3 with a balanced budget of $2 million. 98% of our funding comes from state and federal sources and can be variable at times. Funding from local towns such as Pownell, Shasberry, and Bennington, as well as we raise money from our donors, private grants, and foundations complete our funding revenues. We have a dedicated staff of 27, a longevity of 30 years with Sunrise to the most recent of 1 year. They are teachers, child care workers, case managers, administrators, and social workers. They work with the at-risk in our community. Sunrise is located on Union Street. It contains an alternative high school called Opportunities for pregnant and parenting teenage moms, sometimes dads, so they can finish and achieve their high school education. The students also receive job skills development, participate in job placement, learn life skills, and parenting skills. Some of our participants gathered signatures to put our agency on the ballot again this year. Sunrise also provides recognized state and national level child care for infants to 3-year-olds. The staff do home visits, family casework, and we are also the fiduciary agent coordinating needs of children and families that need mental health, social, behavioral, and medical services with those appropriate agencies. Another new unit of our program is a housing grant in cooperation with Shires Housing and several landlords. Renters 101 was created to help our young families learn how to be good tenants. Sunrise maintains and coordinates all the training in the county for recognized home care and child care facilities, as well as a list of where the openings are or do not exist. We served over 500 families this year, over 1,000 individuals. Nearly half were battling opiate addiction. Thus, we enable families to offer, often in trauma, to have hope, change, and to learn to be a part of their community, making us a better place to live while strengthening their own family unit. So on behalf of the board, our staff, and the families we serve, we would appreciate a yes vote to all the voters tomorrow to support Sunrise on tomorrow's ballot. Thank you to all of the select board who gave all of our agencies an opportunity to speak, because often or not, unless you need a service, you often do not know that it exists. We have two of our other board members that are here tonight, and I just want to have them stand, and now that is Genevieve Plunkett and Peter Lawrence. Thank you very much. Job well done.
Thank you. Forrest, I know you're in the budget, and I'm going to recognize you in a minute, but if my count is right, we've heard from every agency on the ballot for tomorrow except for the Tutorial Center. So before I recognize you, if there is somebody here from the Tutorial Center, I'd be happy to recognize them now. Otherwise, Forrest is a line item on the budget. I'll recognize Forrest, but seeing nobody from the Tutorial Center.
I'll be quick. Just real quickly, I want to thank everyone on the Select Board, Town Administration. It's been a long process, but it was very well vetted and very thought through. I appreciate that. Also appreciate all of the support of all the citizens, both in Bennington, Shasberry, and Woodford. As a shameless plug, we have EMT classes starting every few months. Please don't hesitate to sign up. Lastly, CPR saves lives. We have classes at our agency. We come to your organization, your agency. Trust me, CPR saves lives. We hope that you never need us. We're here for you, the men and women of Bennington Rescue, 24/7. And we hope that if you do need us, we'll be the best part of your worst day. So thank you.
Thank you, Forrest. Knowing that there are at least, I think, 3 folks that would like to speak on the mayoral issue, if we could form a line for that. Charles, you're up front. Why don't you start? And if everybody else who wanted to speak on that subject could queue up just as we did for the agencies. And again, giving some nod to the fact we are voting in a binding fashion tomorrow, and tonight there's no action that can be taken if there can be some reasonable restriction on the length of the remarks.
Okay, Jason. My name is Charles Kozlowski. I'm a resident here in Bennington. We are being asked tomorrow to radically change the way we do governance in this town. And I, for one, think this is a very bad idea. Have you ever wondered how we came to this? How did this binding article get on the ballot? Well, I wasn't surprised to see press accounts explaining how Mr. Mike Longshot Bethel and his friends have been trying and conspiring for years to give Bennington a mayor. In 1998 and again in 2003, but this time, this off-election year, they are hoping to succeed, and will, unless the voters stop them. Having lived in a lot of places before moving here 25 years ago, a mayoral form of government is not all it's cracked up to be. Chicago under Mayor Daley still sticks in my craw. Corruption, favoritism, party hacks, the who you know form of government, not what you know and what is best for the citizens. Further, a year or two of living in Mississippi and Texas confirmed my worst fears about small-town mayors. Before anyone in this room or those at home watching on TV goes to the polls tomorrow, remember this, if nothing else, I implore you. A mayor is first and foremost a politician, not a local advocate, not the friend of business, labor, progress, the environment, or good government. Simply a politician, always interested in the next election, kowtowing to those who are the loudest and best organized, constantly favoring one faction over another, only to get elected. And what are we being asked to replace? A town manager, an experienced, trained, well-educated professional, hired by and controlled by the duly elected select board to implement and oversee operations of the town. Stuart Hurd, the present manager, and I have challenged one another on a number of issues over the years. But he has always been fair, open, reasonable, well-informed, and had the confidence of the select board to implement change when it was needed and to hold the course when best for Bennington. He's not a personal friend, but I respect and trust Stuart on the town's business and government. A mayor for Bennington equals, in my opinion, boss politics. We are being asked to vote on a half-baked, binding proposal. Keep that in mind, binding, not advisory, binding. Binding proposal which would give the mayor absolute veto power over the town and select board. Is this Russia or the United States? This is wrong, undemocratic, and must be voted down. We as citizens don't even know the term limits of the would-be mayor. And what of his salary or her salary, staffing, budget, tax policies, all unknown. A mayor could be hiring and firing department heads at will within his or her prerogative, depriving the town of hard-earned experience and expertise. Is this what we want, ladies and gentlemen? Is this what we want? Party politics, no continuity, factions, one man or one woman rule? I submit that this is Vermont, the birthplace of democracy, 49. We don't need or want a mayor or a would-be autocrat, chief executive officer, or party hack. Don't we have enough evidence of this in the White House and Washington? In closing, remember that good and true people have been working hard on examining and coming up with proposals to modify the town's charter. I say that this is a healthy and very positive step. Give them, the select board, and the town manager a chance to do their jobs. Vote no tomorrow on the mayor proposal, and if you don't, we may never get a second chance. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Abby Shapiro from Bennington, and I wasn't going to speak, and in fact, the gentleman before me has said most of what I was going to say, but when it looked like so few people were going to get up and speak, here I am, because I'm never shy. And anyone who knows me knows that I've questioned and opposed a number of issues that the select board and the town manager have brought up over the years. But having said that, in spite of my disagreements, I really think that we need to vote no on the mayor ballot item. This is not a popularity contest between Stuart, our town manager, and a mythical mayor, and I might add a mythical mayor who's, other than we know that he's going to veto, has the power to veto everything that 12 elected officials might say. The details are going to be worked out later. Who votes on something like that? I mean, this is a half-baked vision that has been crafted by one person to be legally binding, and anybody who signed the petition, before you go and vote, make sure you read all the details, because we're going to be stuck with this if it passes, and there's no guarantee that it's not going to raise taxes, that it's not going to be bad for the community, because we don't know any details. So having said that, I simply say this is not the right time to vote for this particular ballot item. If you want a mayor, do the work to craft something that would work for our community instead of choosing an unknown. And finally, anybody who thinks that a mayor will eliminate nepotism and cronyism hasn't lived in a small town long enough. Thank you.
Okay, so somebody had to speak out for the mayor.
Could you please identify yourself?
My name is
first?
John Connell. I'm a almost 20-year resident of the town. I'm originally from Central New York, and I actually work for a government agency. I've seen how government acts. I've been doing that for 25 years, so I have a little bit of experience of that. I did want to talk about what brought this to the fore, at least in my mind. And really it was what kind of put it over the top was the issue of the salt shed. The salt shed, basically, the way I see it, is because of the actions of some people here today, including the town manager, we lost out on a grant of about $340,000. When you add interest to that, because it's bonded, it's about $500,000 roughly, 15,000 residents in the town. It's only about $30 a resident. It's not much, right? $30. That's what it cost y'all. I have a family of 5. I have 3 daughters, so it's going to cost me about $150, about $150. Doesn't seem like a lot of money, right? But my question was always, like, why do we do that? I mean, I guess the salt shed's open, operational, and it's working, right? We're doing salt. It's not, right?
We're not storing any salt.
Not storing any salt. So I don't know what the hurry was. And if there was a contracting issue, I can't imagine that it saved us $500,000, because that's what we paid to be in such a hurry on the salt shed. We also paid in the town's reputation with environmental agencies. That's what I do for a living, by the way, is I work for an agency that implements environmental laws. And I can tell you that a good way to get the attention of those regulators and the people that enforce the law on that is to allegedly, knowingly, and willfully violate the wetland laws. That's a good way to get attention on the town. Who knows what that's going to cost us in the future? I don't know whether this particular version of the mayor is the best version. I do know, my understanding is this is phase 1, and all those details can be worked out by the people right here at the table. You guys can work them out, as can you legislators. That's my understanding. And I also know that, I'm
one
sorry.
at a time. One at a time.
Okay. I also know that they've been meeting on this mayor issue for a long time. It seems like people that don't want the mayor just don't want the mayor. Clearly that would be a politician, but it would be somebody who's accountable, because what I don't see here is when those kind of decisions are made, anybody being held accountable. And that's being held accountable as far as for our tax dollars, our money. It's just not okay to waste our money and then you guys not do anything about it. And so if you guys aren't going to, maybe your mayor will. So that's what I would say.
Okay.
But at least the taxpayers will hold them accountable.
Is there anybody else that would like to speak on the mayoral issue? Seeing none, is there anybody else who would seek recognition to speak on any other item that's germane for this meeting? Shelley Duboff, please.
Tall people.
Take your time, Shelley. Just move it.
Just take the mic out and sing a song.
That'd be
I'm not here
great.
to talk about mayors. I'm not even here to ask you for money. But I am here to talk about something that's very dear to my heart. My husband and I moved to Bennington in 1974. And one of the first things I did when we arrived was to volunteer at the Bennington County Humane Society. You might not know this, but in 1961, the organization that was then the Bennington County Humane Society bought this small restaurant that was located on Route 7A in Shaftesbury, and they turned it into a tiny little 2-room shelter. That's where I became one of the few volunteers. It was 2 rooms, 2 employees, the volunteer. We had some cages for a few cats and maybe once in a while a dog. I've continued my association with the Humane Society for over 40 years. I served on the board. I started the Pet of the Week program with Cat TV. I co-founded the foster care program. I even filled in as the executive director for a short period of time. I was there when they changed the name to the Second Chance Animal Center. And this was to better reflect the mission that the shelter was not just a place to care for animals and adopt animals out, but we were there to provide services for people who really wanted to keep their pets but couldn't, and then would have to make the final decision to relinquish them. We provide for the needy by giving free cat litter, free cat food, free dog food. We go to the schools, we educate children on compassion and the care of their pets. We actually partner with some of the organizations. In fact, we've partnered with PAVE and their Safe Haven program to provide temporary shelter for dogs that have to be placed or cats so that people can leave these homes. We also encourage responsible pet ownership by having a very, very, very low-cost spay and neuter program. The tiny facility that I began volunteering at has pushed its walls out in every way possible. Right now, it's this little rabbit warren of rooms. If you ever go in and take a tour, there's a room here for cats, there's a room here for dogs, there's a room here for more cats, and maybe there's a room for iguanas and gerbils and everything else. But the reputation, and with this pushing out of walls, we now house over 14 dogs and over 100 cats. The reputation of Second Chance has really continued to grow, and so has our services. We are most proud of the outstanding care we provide our shelter animals as we prepare them for their forever homes. And we have accomplished all of this amazing work in that small facility that you'll see on Route 7A in Shaftesbury, Vermont. But the needs of the animals and the needs of the people of Bennington County have continued to grow. Our biggest dream was to build a new and state-of-the-art facility. Well, we purchased a 5.5-acre property on Route 7A in Arlington, and if you travel north to Arlington and look on your left-hand side, you will see our new building going up, and I am so excited. Well, this long overdue project has only been possible by the generosity of our donors, and it's going to be completed sometime this summer or fall. Second Chance has never taken any money from local, state, or federal government. We are 100% funded by the community and the minimal fees that we charge for adoption. While the building continues, however, we are still looking for donors for our capital campaign. Anyone out there? We want to make sure that this facility lasts for generations to come. And we have many donor opportunities. You can sponsor a cage or a kennel. We have naming opportunities, and with me tonight, we have a brick program where you can buy a brick, you can memorialize a favorite pet, you can honor someone, and they make great gifts. So I've come here to encourage everyone to become a donor in some form or another, and thank you so much for your time and your continued support. Thank you.
Shelley.
Thank you, Shelley. Anybody else seeking recognition? Third row back, please.
Hi, my name is Bill Twing. I'm a Bennington resident. I'm a member of the Bennington Climate Advocates, which is a node or a branch of 350.org, and we have a resolution that we would like to present to you for consideration. It is a non-binding resolution. It will require no money from the town, only the act of sending a letter up to Montpelier with a request. You have You should have that in front of you, or if you don't, there are some extra copies around which we can deliver around. There are 3 whereases and 1 therefore, so be it. So I'm just going to comment briefly on the whereas sections and then get to the therefore be it resolved. The whereas sections are pretty much common knowledge. Climate change is already having a devastating impact on the state of Vermont, and those impacts are going to only get worse progressively unless they are decisively addressed. The Vermont, number 2, the Vermont Department of Public Service has been wrestling with this problem for a long time, and in its most recent comprehensive energy plan, it formulated in 2016, it has called for a state goal of 90% renewable energy by 2050, which seems like a lot, but number 3, the town of Bennington, and I have to commend you very, very highly for this, has not only endorsed that goal, but has set in place a very clear plan for achieving it in its recently adopted energy element, which was unanimously adopted by the Select Board as Chapter 8 of the Bennington Town Plan this past month. And we assume that this energy plan, which is an excellent plan, will be finalized on March 15th when it's incorporated into the regional energy plan. Now, the reason for the resolution is that the state legislature and the governor have, although they have the comprehensive energy plan, they haven't put it into legislation. So we're basically asking that they put it into legislation so that it becomes the law, if
Bill,
possible.
if I may interject, it's a non-binding resolution. There's more people that would like to speak.
Okay.
If you'd like to briefly read the resolution,
Yes.
and then we'll take a quick non-binding vote on it.
Okay. Therefore, be it resolved that the town of Bennington urge the legislature and the governor of the state of Vermont to, number 1, commit by act of legislation to a goal of meeting 90% of all energy needs within the state from renewable sources by 2050, and number 2, ensure that the transition to renewable energy is fair and equitable for all residents. Okay. So on behalf of climate advocates of Bennington, I move the adoption of this resolution.
Is there anybody else that would like to speak on the question? I would. Please come forward and state your name and town of residence.
I'm Mary Garrish. I'm from Bennington, Vermont, and I would like to say that I fully support this resolution. We know that you all support it because the town is really good about this. Our legislators need our support. And I also would like to say that our local organization of Rights and Democracy, as well as the statewide organization, is supporting this resolution and all resolutions like this that are being brought forward at town meetings tonight. So I would encourage everybody to please support this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is David Durfee. I'm the David Durfee that lives in Bennington. This resolution focuses on a specific goal and deadline for achieving it. Meeting the goal of 90% of all energy needs from renewable sources is vital to mitigating the seriousness of the impact global warming will have on our and others' children and grandchildren, and my new great-grandchild. Meeting the goal by 2050 will mean that significant progress will have been made in the next 32 years, while mitigation is still possible. At least 30 years ago was the best time by which to take major steps. But evidence was thin, and besides, there were still other more immediate issues we had to deal with right away. 20 years ago, 10 years ago would have been good times. Evidence was stronger, but there were still seemingly more important issues that we had to deal with right away. Now we have today. Evidence and experience are convincing, and in spite of the fact that there are still other immediate issues demanding our attention, we must and we can be decisive. I would add one thing. A month ago, the document that's attached to this resolution was taken to the Bennington Banner, and I was encouraged to believe that it would have been in your hands a month ago. I apologize for the very short notice you ended up receiving. Thank you.
Well, this isn't going to work.
We can hear you.
So I'm Richard Dennis, and I am from Bennington. So as you may know, our president calls global warming a hoax. But sooner or later, people will realize that he's a fraud and totally unfit to be president. They'll see how he's sabotaging our efforts to control the global warming.
Dr. Dundas, I'm going to rule those comments out of order. I'm sorry. I respect you, but we're not here to denigrate other people. We're here to, right now to talk about the global warming non-binding resolution.
That was my introduction, and I'll proceed if I may.
You may.
The effects of global warming are already all around us. Extremely erratic temperatures, severe storms, flooding, droughts, wildfires. And this is just the beginning. It's going to be getting worse. Global warming is man-made and is caused by a continued consumption of fossil fuels, which release carbon dioxide into the atmosphere and create the greenhouse effect. Science supports this almost unanimously. Since we have no federal leadership, we in Vermont have to act, and act quickly. We need to switch from fossil fuels to forms of renewable energy, and we in Bennington need to instruct our representatives and our administration in Montpelier that we see this as an important issue and ask them to remedy it as outlined in the resolution.
Thank you. If there's no further speech on that question, is there a motion to close debate on that subject? Is there a second? All those in favor signify so by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed signify so by saying nay. Ayes have it. All those in favor of passing this as a non-binding resolution, please signify so by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. Nay. The ayes have it. Is there anybody else who would like to be recognized? I know Representative Morrissey has been waiting to be recognized over there.
Good evening. I'm here tonight to do the annual Multiple Myeloma Month in March, and our dear friend Jan Martin Bopp is not able to be with us this evening because he is dealing with some of the challenges of this disease. With me is Ken Swihart, who you all know, part of the Planning Commission for the town of Bennington, also on the CDC Board of Directors and was on the BSD board. He is a survivor of multiple myeloma. Jan is probably one of the best advocates and has created a support group here at our hospital. He's known locally, statewide, and nationally for all of his advocacy. So I am hoping, and because I believe he did not have the chance to have the select board do their annual awareness proclamation as well, that you may do that in his honor as well at some point this month. I will read the one from the state of Vermont, and it's from the State of Vermont Executive Department. Whereas multiple myeloma is a cancer of plasma cells in the bone marrow and called multiple because it can occur at various sites in the body. And whereas multiple myeloma causes a variety of adverse health effects, including a weakened immune system, anemia, kidney damage, and bone deterioration. And whereas multiple myeloma is the second most common blood cancer worldwide. And whereas multiple myeloma currently affects more than 100,000 people in the United States, with about 30,280 new cases diagnosed and 12,590 deaths from the disease in 2017, according to the National Cancer Institute's Surveillance, Epidemiology, and End Results Program. And whereas once predominantly found in among those 65 and over, where it continues to be most frequently diagnosed, multiple myeloma is increasingly being identified in younger individuals, including those in their 30s, 40s, and 50s. And whereas multiple myeloma is almost twice as likely to occur among African Americans and is one of the leading causes of cancer deaths among African Americans, with scientific understanding of the disparity remaining unknown. And whereas the cause of multiple myeloma is not known, with robust research being performed in the United States and internationally into potential genetic, environmental, and other risk factors, and whereas additional new drugs and therapies are in the research phase, with patient enrollment in clinical trials playing an important role in determining safe and effective treatments. And whereas understanding the treatment of multiple myeloma has been greatly furthered by the role of advocacy initiatives promoting awareness, education, research, peer review, and collaboration, and such efforts are to be highly commended. And whereas greater awareness of multiple myeloma on the part of clinicians and the general public can be led to the earlier detection and treatment, improving health outcomes and bringing comfort to patients and families. Now therefore, I, Phil B. Scott, Governor, do hereby proclaim March 2018 as Multiple Myeloma Awareness Month in Vermont. I think I will end by saying that we acknowledge all types of cancers and hope people are out there doing their regular screenings, because it is so important, in the education and the awareness of all of these. So we thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I'd just like to thank Mary for bringing attention to everybody, as well as the Cancer Center here at our local hospital. Is probably one of the best around. Dr. Ives, you can't really beat her. She sent me to Dana-Farber out in Boston, and they said she's doing a great job. Just keep following what she's doing, as well as the White River Junction VA. They all brag how great our hospital is here locally. And I think that we all should be very proud of Putnam Hospital and the Cancer Center. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Next, if you could please state your name and...
Certainly. Jeff Grimshaw, Southern Vermont Today, here in Bennington. With the moderator's permission, I'd, first of all, good evening to all of you. I'd like to just turn this around because I really need their attention instead of yours. Is it okay if I just cheat around a little?
As long as you can be heard,
all right.
That's fine.
How about that? Showbiz. I've heard great presentations on preserving our human assets, and thank you all. It's really terrific to hear. But I'm here to talk to you just a little bit about preserving our iconic assets, and I want to just make this a little bit interactive. Who here likes the monument? Yeah? Monument? People fans of the monument? Yeah? Okay. The Putnam Block? Monument's not going anywhere, right? All right. Putnam Block? It's not going anywhere because we're going to fix it up, right? Covered bridges. Who likes covered bridges? Yeah. Okay. They're not going anywhere, right? All right. Robert Frost grave? That's not going anywhere, right? All right. First Church? That's not going anywhere. Big chair. You love the big chair? Well, hey, not so fast. On March 17th, the big chair is going to be auctioned off to simply the highest bidder. We've talked with the legal firm. They don't want to make a deal with the town. They don't want to make a deal with anyone privately. Whoever bids the most gets the chair. So we run the risk of an icon, yes, it's been in several renditions, being trucked out of Bennington, I don't know, going to Huck Finn? I don't know, going to Santaland? I don't know.
Jeff?
Yes.
This is bordering on the non-germane, so if there's a point to make,
There is a
please
point,
make it.
there is a point, that Southern Vermont Today and our affiliated companies, we have endeavored to raise funds. We have raised about close to $1,500 in just about a week. And what we'd like to do is to...
Mr. Grimshaw, what's the nature of Southern Vermont Today? Is that your company?
That is a media company.
I'm going to rule this out of order and non-germane. This is not a venue to raise money for a private endeavor to buy a piece of property.
Well, it could change because we're
Well,
asked, we would like to
you
ask
just
the
explained
town...
that it's your company.
We would like to ask the town to match funds to increase the war chest. That comes to 12 cents a resident. So the question is the big chair and all your experience with it and the stopping power that it has
Mr.
here in
Grimshaw,
Bennington work
I'm
12
going to ask
cents.
you, you're out of order. This is non-germane. This is a subject of a legal proceeding in the United States Bankruptcy Court. And I ask that if you would like to speak on another topic, I'm happy to hear what that is.
No, I will yield. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that seeks recognition for any item before we have a brief presentation from the Town of Bennington's new community development director?
Yes, Community Development Director.
And if I can ask her to come forward. And I know you're new, so why don't you introduce yourself to everybody, please? Relatively new, not brand new, but relatively new.
I'll actually stand because I'm quite short. I'm Zerwat Chaudhry. For those who find that too complicated, you can call me Z, but you might have to say hi to me at first. I am the new Community Development Director for the town of Bennington. I've been in this position since the end of July. I think by now I've met maybe several of you who are in this room, and if I haven't, I hope I will have a chance to say hello in some kind of a meeting or non-meeting setting in the near future. So I was asked by the select board and the town manager to put together a little presentation of some of our key achievements from this past year. So I just wanted to start with this wonderful illustration that artist Matthew Perry did for the town this year, and that's on the cover of the annual report that I think some of you, if not all of you, have in your hands today. And Maggie, the town cat, if you haven't met her, is in that illustration as well. So some of the things to get us started, as many of you know now, I think this is one municipality where everybody knows the acronym TIF, Tax Increment Financing. The TIF district in Bennington was approved last year by the Select Board and by the Vermont Economic Progress Council. It allows the town to build essential infrastructure to support new development. New development, of course, one of the key examples that we have on the horizon or that we've been talking about is the Putnam Block. We're expecting or we're hoping that phase 1 construction will begin this spring. One of the kind of supporting one of the supporting gestures that the town made towards the Putnam Block was that we worked with the Bennington Redevelopment Group last year in their application to the Agency of Commerce and Community Development for a community development block grant, and a CDBG, which is what those grants are, of $1 million was awarded to the Putnam Group last year, the Bennington Redevelopment Group. In addition to the Putnam Block, there are several other construction projects. So in 2017, the estimated cost of permitted construction went up to $47.5 million, as opposed to $11.5 million in 2016. So there is a lot of construction and buzz that's happening in town, and that I think we'll be seeing more of this coming year. The Department of Public Works Highway was really busy this past year. They acquired, renovated, and moved into the Bowen Road location. They built the White Rocks Trail parking lot, harvested the town woodlot off Middle Pownell Road, and received approximately $125,000. They also painted Paper Mill Covered Bridge. In addition, they added 2,700 linear feet of concrete curb and sidewalks, paved over 8 miles of road, installed 3,500 linear feet of storm drainage in streets that never had any, and they made paving and improvements at River Walkway Park between North and School Streets. And several of those are words I've never uttered in a presentation before. I will just have you know. The Water Department, its main focus this past year has been responding to the PFOA crisis. And as many of you know, new water lines will be added to the village of North Bennington, as well as to the northwest area of the town of Bennington. Source lines will be installed this spring, and main work is expected to be done by the end of the construction season. In addition, 36 lead service line replacements were made. The Sewer Department, and I know this is something that we've talked about in various town meetings because of the town passed a $9.85 million bond for upgrades to the town's sewer plant. Well, this past year, the Sewer Department made in-house replacements to 2 rotating biological contactors and did 1,200 linear feet of sewer lines, or cleaned and televised 1,200 linear feet of sewer lines. Buildings and grounds, I'm just going to go through this because it's pretty late and I know everyone wants to go home. So buildings and grounds, one of their main projects this year was to make continuing improvements to the Greenberg Headwater Park. How many people in this room have actually visited the Headwater Park? Wonderful. So the pictures will be familiar to you. So if you've been there, you'll be happy to know that the stairs leading to the parking area, the boardwalk to the proposed kayak launch deck, these were all done by our buildings and ground staff in collaboration with Highway, North Bennington Highway, and Bennington County. That should not be Conversation District. I'm sure they're very chatty, but that's the Conservation District. Bennington Rotary installed the bridge at Beach Street Ball Field, and a very generous community member put up trail signs all over across the various trails. The Ninja Bike Ped Path, as it is popularly called, the interim path is now complete and open to the public. There will be directional signs up later this spring so everyone can follow their path through it a little better. Again, Building and Grounds was instrumental in creating the access ramps, and the bridges going into the path were built by the Highway. This was another community effort as well, and several volunteers, I know several of whom are in this room, were involved in the trail clearing for the United Way Day of Service. So thank you to all of you. Office of Community Development, which is my office, we administered $76,000 worth of new loans from the Bennington Revolving Loan Program, $142,500 worth of townwide housing loans, and $10,000 worth of grants from the Bennington Economic Development Fund. In addition, we forged a new partnership with the Alliance for Community Transformations, which is a community-driven collaborative effort that addresses substance use disorder and that focuses on youth advocacy and support in this community. Another one of our activities this past year was the partnership with the Berkshire Family YMCA, which started a summer camp at the Recreation Center last summer. Camp Green Mountain ran from July 3rd to August 18th at the Recreation Center. There were 90 children enrolled at the summer camp, which was almost a 3-fold increase from previous years at the summer camp. And the camp also made 5 new local hires for their camp counselors. We're currently exploring opportunities and options for after-school care as well through the Y. The police department, this past year, one of their, I think, changing approaches was to engage more with the youth and, sort of intervene in the community through outreach and education. And one of their interventions in this regard was increase officer involvement in local schools. And last year, four officers participated daily in school safety. And apparently they're making them do lots of push-ups now. The fire department provided fire safety and prevention methods to 1,789 youth and 379 adults last year. And finally, the Charter Review Committee completed its work and submitted its report, including recommendations for change. And as you know, a summary video of some of those changes and their recommendations are available on the town's website as well. And I just want to conclude with this other wonderful work of art that was done as a kind of collaboration between a local artist, Polly Vanderlind, who commissioned the piano keys for Four Corners, which was painted by the town's highway staff at Four Corners. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you for that presentation. If there's a motion to do so, because there wasn't anybody else looking to speak, I don't believe, I would like to hear a motion to stand in adjournment until tomorrow morning, at which time the polls will open at 7 a.m., where there will be voting on 2 select board positions, the budget, and 12 funding items. There is a motion to adjourn. Is there a second? There's a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. All those opposed?
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.